Thank you.
He's one of these guys who, he's like Clarence Thomas, black Republican who believes in pulling yourself by your bootstraps, rather than, to me, understanding the systemic racism that African Americans face in this country and other minorities. He doesn't get it, neither does Clarence.
Right.
And that's why they're Republicans.
Joy Behar attacking South Carolina Senator Tim Scott last month on The View, saying he doesn't get systemic racism, claiming he's an exception. Yesterday, Senator Scott went on the show to sit down with the hosts and address their past comments head on. Watch.
You have indicated that you don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
Let me answer the question that you've asked
or does it even exist in your mind?
Let me answer the question this way. One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception.
Senator Tim Scott now seeking the GOP nomination for president, and he joins us here on America's Newsroom. It's great to have you here with us, sir. Do you wish Joy Behar had been there yesterday so you could have taken that on directly?
Absolutely. I mean, when you have someone who says, being like Clarence Thomas, to me, is a compliment. However, the way she said it and what she meant was that African-American conservatives have no clue what it means to be black in America. Here's a young lady, white lady, wearing blackface and saying that's somehow complimentary to black people. That says she's completely inconsistent with reality. But more important, both Clarence Thomas and my story have things in common. Number one, it starts in poverty and tragedy, broken lives, broken pieces that are made whole. How are they made whole? This country affords anyone to rise to the level of their character, their integrity, and their grit. We want that story to be sold or told to the American people. Kids trapped in poverty today need to know that you do not have to be the exception. You are actually the rule. If you will work hard, you will be lucky. That's where opportunity comes from.
And that's what parents want for their kids, indeed. Do you think you made a difference yesterday in trying to broaden the audience, to get people to understand that you are Tim Scott, you are an individual, you happen to be conservative, you happen to be black, but that is not what defines you? I
think so. I mean, one of the things that we as conservatives have to do is we have to go where we're not invited. We have to spend time selling our message of conservatism to people who may be naturally inclined to say yes to our message, but they've never had a messenger show up.
So where might you go, aside from The View?
Well, I did a town hall this past Sunday in an African-American church to have a conversation about why it is that we can believe in the future of this country working together. I'm going to do an event in a Brazilian church coming up in the next few months. My goal is to go throughout the country. If you want to be a different kind of president, you should be a different kind of candidate.
Did you have anything, sometimes when I finish a White House briefing, that night I'd be in bed and I think, I should have said this. Do you have any of those moments from The View? What would you have liked to have said?
Yeah. I asked during the break, let's dive into why America is not systemically racist. Let's have a backdrop of where my grandfather was making his way through the Jim Crow South in the 1920s and 30s, how much it changed by the time my mother was born, won't say when that was, and then compare those two generations to my generation where as an 8th grader there was a race riot at my high school. 4 years later, I'm the president of the student government. Why is it that we can actually measure change in reasonable time in this nation? It's because we lean into the fight together. We are willing to address the challenges and the inequalities of this country together. That's what makes America exceptional.
All right, let's talk about the race. So the RNC, this call for number 3, has some debate requirements out there. You would have to get 1% support in 3 national polls and 40,000 unique donors. Do you qualify at this point for that debate?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you think about getting on that stage, you have Chris Christie, for example, who wants to get in today, and his goal to try to get on that stage and try to take down President Trump. Governor Sununu from New Hampshire yesterday declined to get in the race. Yes. And then he wrote this in the Washington Post, that I'm not running for president. Beating Trump is more important. No one can stop candidates from entering this race, but candidates with no path to victory must have the discipline to get out. Anyone polling in the low single digits by this winter needs to have the courage to hang it up and head home. Do you agree with that?
Well, I agree that everybody has the opportunity to run, and they should run. What I'm going to focus on is the fact that America can do for anyone what she has done for me. The importance of restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America is why I look forward to being on the stage and having a conversation with the American people, how you can be optimistic, positive, and yet a strong-willed conservative. That message, I believe, will continue to resonate.
Do you think he says beating Trump is more important than anything. Do you agree?
I think beating Biden is more important than anything else. Here's the truth. President Biden has failed at his job. You can't trust him on spending. Giving him an unlimited credit card between now and the time he leaves office is a terrible decision. Allowing him to print and spend $4 trillion, leading to 16% inflation, devastating parents like mine, a single mother who now has to spend another $500 a month under this president just to be break even. We can do better. We have done better.
But before you can take on Biden, you have to take on the other candidates. There's one other one I wanted to ask you about. So former Governor Nikki Haley, she appointed you to be at the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
Why would you be a better president than she would be?
Well, I think the truth of my life disproves the lies of the radical left. If there's ever a time for someone who's lived on both sides of the track, who's had an opportunity to start with a miserable beginning, growing up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty, nearly failing out of school as a freshman because I felt like this country would not afford me the opportunity. That victim mentality that I had to deal with.
Do you think that she feels that way too, though?
Allows me to overcome the challenges of today. I can't.
But you know her story, right?
I know her story, yes.
Do you think that she feels the same? And like when she talks about her dad being, basically discriminated against, and that her having to watch that she would say, she doesn't say she's African American, of course, but that she's had similar challenges.
Well, I would say that growing up with a father, without a father, is a very different experience than many people have had. Unfortunately, it is what 3 out of 4 African Americans are having today, and 4 out of 10 white kids are having today. I think understanding that this country works for those who are at the bottom just as well as it does for those at the top is a message that we should talk about. And then finally, I'd say from a policy perspective, having had the privilege of writing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act on the personal side of the tax code, providing $2+ trillion of tax cuts is an important ingredient to being successful as president, as already having done so as a legislator.
Where do you go from here?
Well, I go back to D.C., and then we're back on the road in South Carolina, Iowa, New Hampshire, and then on the road for. Do you like
eating all the food on the campaign trail in Iowa?
As long as my suit's fit, I do.
I was going to say, because you're still looking pretty trim, so that's good for you. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
We love having you in studio. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Tim Scott, everyone.